Okay. Hi, folks. Sorry. I'm continuing about the American response to the pandemic and how politics makes you stupid. I was getting a little bit too animated, a little angry. So, anyway, so we have the so-called public health officials and scientists, the Surgeon General, and they made a big mistake on masks. And a year later, there's 350,000 Americans dead. $2 trillion is poof, gone. And there's a lot of other problems in our country. You look at Taiwan, a year later, there's 7 people dead. Now, in the United States, we have 2 factions. So it really was inexcusable how they made a mistake, these public health officials and the Surgeon General. And what's interesting is that they refuse to apologize for what happened. They don't admit that it was gross incompetence. And then they boast. So one of the leaders of this and kind of the hero to one faction, one half of the country, is a guy, and I don't like to say him by name or talk about these people because what I say will be politicized. People you say, oh, look at Alok, this guy. He says this guy doesn't know what he's doing, and then they use it, and it will be politicized to use it against the intelligent things that he actually says, and the scientifically based things that he makes. So it is a mess right now in the country, and so people who make that point to me, when I'm critical of everyone, they do have a point because things will be politicized. But there was another guy who's ahead of these viruses things, and he speaks mostly kind of from a sort of scientific point of view, obviously not a very scientific point of view. And so he's a hero to one half of the country, even though, and because he's a hero, he does all kinds of media interviews. I don't know when he does his job. Obviously, he's not really doing his job because the situation in the United States is terrible, but he has a very high media profile, and he boasts. You know, there's a pile of 350,000 corpses of my countrymen and my countrywomen before me, and this man was tasked to protect them, and he did no such thing, and he boasts that he did a fantastic job because his media popularity is high, and that is both the president as well as the quote-unquote scientific lead of another part of the government. And half of the country loves the president, and we're under a president named Trump right now. Other half of the country loves the particular scientific leader, and that's a guy named Fauci right now. So it's amazing. Now, anyone who is governed by their faculty of reason, who has any faith in our country, if you're a citizen of the country of the United States, would be furious at both of these individuals because they messed up badly. Now, our current president of the United States is this guy Trump. And this guy, to understand his horror, is that he lied about this virus being dangerous. At the same, and it's unbelievable that he just received 75 million votes. 75 million people voted for him in our country. Even though he lied about the virus being dangerous, he says it's not dangerous at all. At the same time that he lies to the whole country, including myself and all my other fellow citizens, he's getting tested for this virus every single day. Because that way, if he tests positive, he can immediately get a lot of treatments. And the sooner you get the treatment, these antiviral medication, the sooner it's going to be effective. Now, for the vast majority of the rest of the country, and to understand, I mean, we've spent 1/3. The government has borrowed 1/3 of the annual household income, has borrowed that money to spend it in response to this pandemic. And just look at the testing situation for this virus, how horrible it is. That it takes you a day or two just to get tested, and then it takes you 2 to 4 days to get your results. So for the average person, it's going to be like 4 days. Now, in India, a developing nation, a country with vastly less resources than the United States, you can get tested almost instantly, get your results within 24 hours, anybody. And it's a lot less, the cost of the test there, than in the United States. Now, where did this enormous amount of money go? People are still getting evicted from their homes. Hundreds of thousands of small businesses have gone bankrupt and shut down despite the supposed government help. You can't get tested effectively where you could get an effective treatment. It's a disaster. It's a worst response. It's the most expensive response in the world and the worst response in the world. And there's so few people, there's virtually no one in the media who talks about the $2 trillion who was spent on that, $20,000 per household. There's no one who really talks about that. And then there are a lot of people who have attacked President Trump in terms of saying that wearing a mask does not help you, that the virus is a hoax, and all of these lies that he said. There haven't been as much pointing out his hypocrisy, that he's getting tested every day. At the same time, he's saying it's a hoax and it's not dangerous, and he doesn't wear a mask. So, but I mean, fairly, he has been pilloried by a lot of the media. On the other side, these public health officials, the most famous of whom I pointed out, the personality in the media is this guy Fauci. These guys have not really been pilloried. Now there has been media coverage of how they screwed up in terms of what they said about masks, and so it's out there in the media, but it hasn't gotten a fraction of the attention that the criticism of the President Trump, has gotten. But you basically have half of the country that they voted again for Trump, 75 million people, despite this. And they primarily voted for Trump because they attribute otherwise the economy was doing well, was quote unquote sort of doing well, depends. Now, they don't even know what is the economy when you talk about it, et cetera, so I won't get into detail and whether it could be attributable to Trump. But basically, a lot of people attributed the sort of economy doing all right to Trump, and that's why a lot of people were voting for him. He still had a massive amount of fans, despite this just absolutely disastrous, his lies, all these things about the handling of the virus. And he said very many stupid things, like dropping a nuclear bomb on hurricanes rather than dealing with climate change, or about injecting people with bleach as a treatment for the virus. Very bizarre kinds of things, and he still has 75 million followers. Now, the public health people, led by this guy Fauci, and the other half of the country, they love this guy. And no one using their faculty of reason, looking at the facts, could possibly support any of these public health professionals and their kind of incompetence. So just avoid politics. It's going to make you stupid. Look at the facts, and use your reason, and look at facts. And also stay cool, as I need to do too. Sorry, my last video is getting a little too excited. So that's basically the point. It continues to just stymie that in my country I have hundreds of millions of people who idolize one or the other, who love one or the other faction, when neither faction has absolutely any credit to it whatsoever. They have just, it's been disastrous. It's comparable to 15 years ago, my government's response to the Hurricane Katrina, where there were thousands of people stuck for days and weeks in the Superdome, and they were defecating on the floor. There was so much fecal matter on the floor, they had to start spreading it on the walls. There were little children sleeping in piles of urine, and the government doesn't seem to find any shame in that. And it doesn't matter what your political faction is, that's shameful. And nobody seems to care, have wanted to do a better job with other public health and national emergencies to be prepared for these things, because we had no preparation whatsoever. And no one really wants to criticize our government. No one wants to think that we could do it, and we could have done just as well as Taiwan. We certainly have the resources, and we have allocated the funds and resources, and we have lots of intelligent people in our country too. But too many people look at it from their political faction, either side, and neither side has any pride in our country that really we should have done 5 orders of magnitude better. All right, that's all for now. So just avoid politics, look at facts, and use that faculty of reason that God has given you, and that you're blessed with, and look at the facts. And nature is beautiful, and these viruses are fascinating, and they're beautiful as well, even though they're wreaking a lot of havoc in normal human life at the present as I speak. All right, be well, friends. Take care. Goodbye.